as
Yeah.
they're coming in the adjustment room, as they're lying down on the table, their expression, and I want them to tell me what's going on inside.
Yeah.
Do you feel safe in your body? And what would it take for you to feel safe in that body? So I question more. I get them more engaged, and so on. So those things I think were brought upon with the polyvagal theory. It's a genius theory, by the way. I don't know how you guys came across of it, but it's amazing. It's amazing. It's chiropractic pure and simple.
On this episode of the Informed Chiropractor, we're talking to Dr. Martin Lamarre from Montreal, Quebec. It's a really good interview. We all learn about him going to school in Logan, surrounding himself with amazing chiropractors, getting that vitalistic dipping when he was in chiropractic school, how he became a chiropractor, team chiropractor for a pro football team, and just a lot of learnings along his career in chiropractic. He's in our Informed Chiropractor group, amazing adjusters, adjusted me many times, and he'll talk about his journey on becoming a ninja chiropractic adjuster. And I hope you're going to enjoy the episode. Let's get started. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Informed Chiropractor. Today, we're heading out to Montreal, Quebec, Canada, staying in Canada, and I'm interviewing Dr. Martin Lamarre. He is in our Informed Chiropractor group. He's been to quite a few of our seminars. I've got to know him pretty good over the years. He's a great adjuster. He's adjusted me just about every time we travel, so he's one of the guys I pick out to adjust me. And so, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Well, thank you so much, Don. Quite an honor, actually.
This is awesome. Yeah, I was just thinking the other day, we're in our Informed Chiropractor group, and Martin was nice enough to kind of go over some of his, like we're talking about always different variations of adjusting. And so he was helping some people out with different variations on the first rib adjustment. And I was like, yeah, I got to get him on because he participates a lot and he gives a lot of really good feedback and information to our group. So I'm excited to have you here. So this is great. So you graduated from Logan College
Yep.
in
Yes.
2000.
Yep.
And what we always know the story. We always know the question. What made you decide to be a chiropractor in the first place?
All right. Okay. So when I was a kid, I mean, I would have been the Ritalin poster child. I mean, I was like very frigid and so on. I was involved in a lot of sports, playing competitive hockey at quite a high level as well. But the main sports I was playing in the summer was sprint racing, canoeing.
Mm,
Okay, so for those who are not familiar with sprint racing canoeing, just like look on YouTube, any Olympics and so on. Okay, it's a sport that has two divisions, sort of speaking. You have the kayaking and the canoeing. The difference is the kayaking, you're paddling on both sides. Canoeing, you're always on the same side. I was a canoeist, so I was always paddling on the same side. I was, like I said, I was pretty high level. I was on the provincial team. I represented Quebec at the Canada Games in 1989, and it was basically the repetition of my training. It was like a stress when the paddle was hitting the water on my low back and so on. And like anybody, you kind of like dismiss those. You're 14, 15 years old. Sky's the limit. I'm freaking like I'm made of iron. I'm not gonna break and so on. In the middle of a competition, I was winning the competition by about a boat's length. That was the provincial qualification that year, and I remember. And all of a sudden, I just went down, my back seized, I fell in the water.
ooh,
So rescue boat comes and gets me and so on, and they say, "Hey, what the hell happened to you?" and so on. I said, "I don't know. I don't know. I just like feel this big spasm in my back and so on. It just got tight, and I don't know." So as I like got out of the water on the dock, I started walking, and I felt this sharp burning pain down my left leg and so on. So we had a therapist. He looked at me, or he or she, I don't remember, but they looked at me and they were saying, it's probably just a spasm and everything. And like I said, I was in great shape. So for them back then, 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid being in such pain didn't make sense. So it was just like, you know what? It's the adrenaline, the emotions. You just came out of arrest. Just like go home, rest it, and so on, and we'll be okay. So I did that. I was getting somewhat better, but never 100%. And then the other side of the coin is that hockey season was fast approaching, and my dad was on my case. You're not going to miss the tryouts, blah, 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 blah. So, so anyway, we went to the clinic, we went to physio and everything, and nobody seemed to be able to put their fingers on it and everything. One morning, out of the blue, in the local newspaper, my mom was reading an ad from a local chiropractor, specialist in back pain and everything. We didn't know chiropractic from a hole in the wall. We had no idea what it was and so on. And my mom says, you know what? Might as well try it, and so on. So I went to this guy. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know much about chiropractic, CMCC grad, and so on. But what amazed me, he was the only one that got interested as to what really happened to me, the mechanism of injury. He was asking me question and so on, and he says, well, it makes sense. It's just like the repetition and so on. There's probably something going on with your low back. Let me shoot some x-rays. He was the first one that ordered x-ray and saw right on the spot I had fractured L5 on S1. So I had a bilateral fractures of the pars, a spondylolisthesis. That was probably already there,
Yeah.
but the canoeing, the sport just aggravated it. And that was putting enough pressure on the nerve that I was feeling it down my leg.
Wow.
So lo and behold, he started adjusting me, and he gave me the straight story. He says, you know what, this thing might never come back to its original setting, but we'll do everything to stabilize it so that way you can resume and everything. I did a few months of treatment with him. The following summer, I won the Canadian Championship, pain free.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I was fairly amazed. And even to that point, I've always been like called to work within healthcare field or something, maybe as a trainer, maybe as a therapist. I didn't really know, like the chiropractic story didn't click in my head at that point. Then a few years later, I injured myself. I had a summer job. I was like changing tires on cars at Costco, actually, and lifting tires, moving stuff, and everything. And I was one of those overachievers. I mean, there was like 15 cars in the lot. I'll do them in an hour, and so on. So
You're
I
just
was
throwing
like,
stuff around.
oh, there you go, there you go. I was like Joe, going like a madman, and so on. I re-injured myself. Call the same guy. Call the same chiropractor. To my surprise, he had changed completely his practice.
Oh,
From a
really?
CMCC grad, he had like an epiphany and became HIO.
Oh, really?
That's all he did, okay? And he did it the BJ Palmer way, where he was scoping you, looking
Yeah.
at the reading. If you needed an adjustment, he would adjust you. If you didn't need an adjustment, he would send you. So that was pretty much like the adjustment.
Yeah. So,
So
so
I
just
went,
for listeners out there, that's just the upper cervical specific. That's the upper
yes, yes,
cervical
yeah.
technique. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Exactly. Okay. With the knee chest table and so on. So he would just like toggle my atlas and that's it. And I was amazed. I got great result. I said, what the hell happened and everything. So at that point, he showed me some videos. He sat me, I think it was the old Renaissance video with Joe Felicia
Oh, yeah.
and
And Guy Reichman.
Guy Reitman and so
Yeah.
on. So I listened to this and everything. So at the end of the video, he just came back in the room, says, so what do you think? I says, well, I think I have subluxation. So he just looked at me, he said, you know what? I think you understand more than most chiropractors in this province. I said, well, there you go. So at that point, I think this was like the trigger, okay, as
Yeah.
to then my decision point in terms of becoming a chiropractor or more involved in it. So I went to school and so on. I was a very good student, but not the cream of the crop. And at that time, I was finishing up CJEP. CJEP was like the pre-requirement to get to university and so on. So
Yeah.
I finished my CJEP in health science, and then I enrolled at Laval University in a combined microbiology biochemistry. But always in my mind to become a chiropractor and so on. And because I knew I wouldn't really get into Trois-Rivières, the program was just started over there. Like I said, the contingency was very high. They only take, I think, 45 students a year and so on. I didn't even bother applying.
Yeah.
And the chiropractor I had seen clearly made this point to not go to CMCC. He says, don't waste your time, don't go to CMCC. So at that point, I says, all right, so I'm going to look at basically my options in the States. So we contacted several college. I was with my ex, she was my ex-wife, but back then we weren't married and so on. And we had the package, like most schools were sending you a package with a VHS tape and
I
everything.
remember those.
Yes, exactly. Stating the pros and the cons and so on. I even had like a handwritten letter from Jim Parker himself, from Parker. And so it was amazing. I was just like, wow. I mean, come on, dude, this is something.
I got the old
So
VHS tape from Parker too, and I was
I
the
think
one that bought
I
it. Yeah.
probably have him somewhere. I probably have him somewhere. So that summer, if memory serves well, I think it was 94 or 95. Um, I hopped in my car. We hopped in the car together and we decided we're going to go visit some campus.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we went to National in Chicago. We went to Davenport to visit Palmer. We went to Logan. We went to NYCC and so on.
Oh, wow.
I had eliminated Parker and Life because of distance,
Yeah.
pretty much. Maybe not a good thing, but back then I didn't know
Oh, yeah. You
which
don't
school
know.
the pros and cons and which school is better and so on.
Yeah.
And basically, my decision came to a gut feeling because I was accepted at all schools I applied.
Yeah.
And Logan basically told me, "You're accepted on the spot. You can start right away if you want," and everything. And back then, my ex was coming with me. She would like just join me for the whole adventure, and it just seemed like a perfect environment. The
Yeah.
campus was close enough to the city, but far enough at the same time, so we can like focus on the studies and everything.
Yeah.
And the other side of the story was that because I was going to an American college, there were fees or anything, I had to convince my dad to help me. That was the other part. So my dad saw that I did my due diligence. He saw that, you know what, okay, he's serious because I mean, growing up like any kids, you get involved. Let's say at some point I was like learning guitar, and that basically lasted maybe a month. We had bought all the equipment and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Buy me a nice guitar and then you never use it.
There you go. There you go. So, and my dad's philosophy, I mean, he's gonna anticipate what will go wrong before he sees what can go right. That's how he is.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of like prove my point, and at some point he saw how serious I was and everything. I had done my due diligence, and this is where I want to go, and so on. So he said, "All right, okay," and I started the program in January '96.
Yeah.
And in the States, you have the opportunity to do it in 3.5 years, the accelerated version. So instead of spending 5 years, you go to school year round.
Yeah.
6 days off in April, 2 weeks in August, 2 weeks at Christmas, and you just go and go. And I mean, because of the cost, also, it was like suiting my needs because I didn't have to spend the extra money to have the extra years going.
Totally.
And from that point on, I just was amazed and so on. What I was learning. Being in the States, I had the opportunity to go to many seminars, many programs, and so on, and really found my calling within the philosophical side of the profession.
Like right in school?
Right in school.
Right in school. And
Right
was
in
that
school.
was
Yep.
that from like the curriculum at Logan, or was that just from the people you hung out with at
The
Logan?
people I hung out with.
Yes.
The people I hung out with. Uh, Basically, the curriculum itself, we had some philosophy. What I was appealed from the get go with the philosophy of the profession.
Hmm.
Even when I first saw that chiropractor, the philosophy just like, yeah, I mean, it rang really hard, really deep with me, and so
Yeah.
on. So this is where I started like gaining more and more and so on. And the technique part too, we were exposed at different technique. And
Yes.
I'm a very black and white practical kind of guy and so on. So for me, the conceptual technique, the energy technique were not my forte at the time,
Yeah.
you know? And I was like, this is where I got my interest into Gonstead. Black
To-
and white engineer guy,
Yeah.
vertebrae out of position and so on, X-ray analysis, you correct it, line of drive, there you go, boom. This is what I liked. This
Yes.
is what I liked.
And did you go like to Mount Horeb, and did you do a bunch of that while you're in
I
school?
did, yeah, I went to Mount Horeb at least 4 times.
Yeah.
We had a chiropractor. His name was Dr. Poe. I think he still teaches in the Gonstead seminar series that came to St. Louis, but he was banned. He was not allowed to come on campus. So we had to we had to have him come to a nearby hotel or someone or a shady
Yeah.
basement somewhere, and he would teach us his philosophy. I also was shadowing my Gonstead instructor at school.
Ah,
And oh yeah, and on a side note, okay, this is what really made me a believer and so on. Um, we were trying to conceive during my last trimester, me and my ex-wife. Okay, actually,
yeah.
my oldest was born during my last trimester in St. Louis, so
Oh,
he's got dual citizenship.
cool.
Yeah, but listen to this. This is amazing. So we go there. Okay, we did like my ex had a fausse couche in French. It's like a false labor or a
Oh,
step.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was like quite a traumatic event and so on.
Mhm.
So I started speaking to some doctors in the faculty and so on, and I spoke to my Gonstead instructor, and he said something to me that makes really sense. He said, "Well, how's her system?" I says, well, she's never been really like regular with her menses and so on. He says, let's stimulate her thyroid gland. And I'll take it on me. I'll adjust her low back, just to make sure everything is good over there. But we're going to start giving her kelp, which is
Mm.
a seaweed that's very rich in iodine, which is basically what stimulates the thyroid gland and so on. Well, lo and
Yeah.
behold, she got pregnant second time. No issues and everything.
Yeah.
And from that point on, it was just amazing. He kept adjusting her on a weekly basis and so on. And I got to learn so much just by observing him. And he was like a really, really hardcore Gonstead principal chiropractor and so on.
Yeah.
And this again was just like reinforcing my ideology, the philosophy. I mean, this is what I want to do. Pure, unadulterated chiropractic. No
Yeah.
bullshit gimmick, physio or whatever. I have nothing against it.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah.
nothing. But I have nothing for it neither.
Right.
So
Yeah.
people that are comfortable doing this, by all means, do it and so on. But just not for me. For
Mhm.
me, it's like a pure, genuine, hands-on chiropractic. And I've been that way since last September, where I started introducing instrument adjusting in my in my clinic. Almost 25 years later, I've always been a hands-on type of guy.
There, you mixer? No, just kidding.
Ah, no. So,
No, that's
so
cool. And
yeah,
so like when you went through school, did you have any other kind of big like seminars that you went to, or any other inspirational stuff that was besides, or did you mostly get it from the Gonstead world?
I got it from the Gonstead world, but I also joined a coaching program, the waiting list practice.
Oh yeah, okay, I
They
remember
they
that.
had a version for students.
Yeah,
We went, so I did a few of their seminars. I even joined a coaching program in my first few years of practice.
yeah,
We did several Parker seminars. We actually
yeah.
went to Dallas on campus over there.
Oh, cool.
We did. I don't remember the name there. It was in Kansas City. I mean, but everything was revolving around either practice management or philosophy, or usually a hybrid of both.
Totally. Yeah, yeah.
So I would do that for the most part, and so on. And because we were kind of central. Oh, I
Mhm.
did a few D seminars as well. It's
Oh
true.
wow, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We even flew to Atlanta a few times. We flew to Florida. My parents were snowbirds at the time, so it was very easy for me to hop on a flight from St. Louis, go to Fort Lauderdale, and we would like join a D seminar over there in Miami Beach.
That's
Enjoy the
great.
enjoy the time and come back. Yeah.
Holy cow! So and so like that's a pretty well-rounded schooling. Like a lot of the chiropractors I've interviewed too, a lot of them haven't had that rounded of an education in school. So that's pretty awesome. Usually
Well,
they have to come out and then they get well-rounded after they get out of school.
perhaps also, I mean, I was more of I wouldn't say mature student, but I enrolled in chiropractic school. I was 25 years old,
Yeah,
25 or
yeah,
26. I graduated. I was 29 actually.
right. Yeah. So
So
you're a little bit older than the
yeah, yeah,
average. Yeah,
yeah. So for me, I mean, I wasn't there to waste my time.
yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of knew what I wanted and so on. I was already married at the time, so I
Yeah.
wasn't about like we were
Single.
going out. I mean, we were going out, but I was not the single guy, like
Yeah. Yeah.
running all over the place and so on. So I had my shit together, sort of
Yeah.
speaking.
That's good. Yeah. And
Yeah,
so in 2000 you graduate, and then
yeah.
once you graduated, did you knew for sure you're going to go right back to Montreal, or
Nope, nope,
what was
nope,
the
nope.
next
All right.
step?
No, it's okay. So, like I told you, my oldest was born in St. Louis while I was
Right.
there. So,
Yeah.
my graduation date was April 15, 2000. My oldest was born April 20th, 2000.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. So he was born over there. Obviously, what we did is we stayed there for a little while. My ex had to recuperate and so on. Plus, so I worked a little bit with some doctors over there, just to gain experience.
Yeah.
And everything was like under the table. I had no papers. I was not on my student visa anymore. Nothing. So
We'll work for food.
well, pretty much. It was pretty much. I mean, they were offering, okay, I'll pay your grocery bill this week. Yeah, I'll pay for gas in your car. I'll pay. And back then it was like 30 cents a gallon, So
Totally.
it was really peanuts and so on. So we did that for a few months and then came back to Montreal. the decision was made. Obviously, we wanted to be closer to family, my parents, her parents, and so on. It was the first grandchild. I'm an only child, so it was the first grandchild.
Yeah.
My mom, my parents were ecstatic, and so on, to come. So, and that was cool because right around the time of graduation, my parent made the trips to St. Louis to come for my graduation, and they stayed and they witnessed the whole birth of their first grandchild, and so
Oh,
on. So
wow.
yeah, yeah, that was something. And my ex-in-laws, he was a truck driver, and he
Mhm.
was doing a lot of route in the American Midwest, so he would come at the same
Oh,
time. So
yeah.
we were kind of always like surrounded with family and so on. So that was a big plus too at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
point. So yeah, to go back to your story, so that pretty much like helped trigger our decision to come back to Montreal.
Mhm.
We were touring, maybe going to other provinces and so on, but at some point it's just, you know what, let's take the easy way.
Yeah, it's
Did
home.
we do the right thing? Did we do the wrong thing? You know what? I mean, if I would have known better, I would have done things different, but I did what I think was best with what I knew back then.
Totally. And so did you
So
start as an associate or did you open your own practice? What did you do in Montreal?
that's another story too. So I mean, obviously you have to pass Canadian board and so on, you know. So
Yes.
it was the first or second year that Quebec had abolished their boards, their provincial boards, and they comply with the rest of the provinces with the Canadian boards. So I took the Canadian boards right when I get back. But I mean, I had the newborn and everything. I was overwhelmed and everything.
Yeah.
I missed the cut by one freaking point.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So that summer, I was like working jobs. I was like on a mild depression, and everything. I graduated like top of my class. I mean, I was top on the world and everything. And they just like burst my
Uh,
bubble right on the spot and
I know
everything.
that feeling way too
I
much.
know exactly. That's why we get along so well because I know your story too, you know? And anyway, long story short, I had to wait till the fall to retake them and so on. And in the fall, I was like going back with a knife between my teeth and so on. Succeeded and so on. And meanwhile, just before taking the exam, I had found this job as an associate in a clinic, a Gonstead clinic. Very
Yeah.
impressive place. I mean, it looked like a museum. Super successful chiropractor by the looks, I mean, and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So I started as an associate, but I started as his exam doctor.
Mhm.
And honestly, everything that could go wrong in an associateship, I lived
Oh,
on
really?
an accelerated pace. Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. He got sued, his license got revoked, and the
Oh.
whole nine. Oh yeah, yeah. It was like a horrible, horrible. But that's for another podcast. So I mean, imagine I'm fresh out of school. You know, I barely have any experience under my belt and everything, and I've been like served, and I had to testify in court, and
Oh my
so oh yeah,
goodness.
yeah, oh yeah, to that point, to that point. So I got out of there, and my parents had a duplex with a bachelor in the basement and everything that my dad offered me to buy. I mean, he said, "Why don't you buy my duplex? And you can transform the bachelor side into a home clinic and everything."
Huh.
Which, with everything that happened, made sense from a financial standpoint, but also for it was easier because keep in mind I still had the toddler with me and everything, and
Yeah, no doubt.
so we said, "Yeah, okay, all right." So we started that way. So I started on my own after about give or take 6 to 8 months of associateship. I started on my own from scratch. No
Wow.
patient base, no nothing, and so on. Word of mouth, and we just like been going that way. But I obviously being at home, being in a bachelor was not the ideal location. I was in a very residential neighborhood, no
Yeah.
drive-by traffic, no nothing,
Yeah.
and most of my patient base I got through networking, word of mouth,
Ah.
word of mouth. I cannot say I really spent a lot on advertisement, you
Mhm.
know. And back then, I was doing the waiting list practice program, like the coaching programs and everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got out of it, but that too was not like suiting my personality.
Right.
Was not suiting my personality. And then I kind of had like a revelation came to me. I had a patient that used to come. I mean, I moved my practice, so I was in the bachelor. Then I
Yeah.
moved my practice. Sorry, I'm all over the place.
No, that's good.
And
I'm
so,
following. It's good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was in the bachelor, like in my basement, the basement of my house for about a year, and then I found a location in my hometown, in Ville Saint Laurent, which is a suburb of Montreal,
Yeah.
where I opened up a clinic, and we did like something nice. I was just across the hallway from the Chamber of Commerce of the city, so I had like many contacts and everything. One of my client was a personal trainer and so on,
Mhm.
and he was like fairly knowledgeable. He knew like the whole sports scene in Montreal and so on, and basically talked about me to the head therapist of the Montreal Alouettes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I receive a call out of the blue. Says, hey, Dr. Lamarre, this is so and so. I'm the head therapist of Montreal Alouettes and everything. I said, wow, okay. To what do I owe the honor? He said, well, we have a chiropractor that works with us, but he's moving his clinic to Calgary. We don't know anybody else and so on. I mean, people are talking very highly of you and everything. We'd like to see if you would be interested to coming to training camp and see how everything would go. I
Huh.
says, well, let me think. Yes. So I went there, and we went to training camp, got introduced, and right on the spot, the team doctor gets me to adjust Anthony Calvillo. Okay, he was
Oh,
like the
yeah.
star. Yeah, he was the star quarterback. Okay, he was complaining of a hip issue and so on, a hip pointer, if I remember. So I
Yeah.
treated him, and the connection was immediate.
Yeah.
So I became their chiropractor for 9 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. That's pretty
So
cool.
from 2003 to 2012, I was the chiropractor of the Montreal Alouettes, and I
And
had my own clinic and so on.
that's cool. And I was just to say for people listening, that's the Canadian Football League.
Yeah,
That's the Pro Football League in Canada. So that's the
yeah,
Montreal team. That's
that's it.
cool.
American football. So I was their chiropractor. So it was very good from a business standpoint. You know, it brought
Yeah.
a lot of stance to my status. Hey, he must be good. He's the Montreal Alouettes chiropractor. You know, but
Yeah.
I didn't do anything special. It was just like right moment, right time, right person, and so on. Plus, I have a big mouth, so I talk all the time. So
Well, and also you delivered the goods, right? Like if you went there and you weren't like proficient at adjusting, you wouldn't have got that position. So
well, for sure,
you have
for
to have that
sure.
too.
And that led to another story because exactly like you said, you know, and like I've always been true to my chiropractic route and so on. And the way that it was working with the Alouettes, I was going to the Olympic Stadium, their training facility and so on. And we would share a therapy room with physios, massage therapists, you know, we were all in the same room and so on.
Yeah.
And basically I was not on the payroll. You know, I mean, there's only like two guys. I mean, the CFL, the Canadian Football League, they're not like the
The
NFL and
NFL,
so
no.
on. So the funds are very limited and so on. It's the Players Association insurance from each individual players that would basically reimburse my fees and so on.
Yeah.
So suffice to say, it was on a sign up list. So I was showing up with my portable table. I had a sign up sheet and everything, you know, and players would sign their name as to who wanted to be adjusted and everything.
Oh,
And the thing is, like I said, we were sharing the room with all the therapists and everything. So I was like, I was there for the first like 5 minutes and so on. I already had like 15 to 18 names on my list and so on to process, guys to process,
yeah.
including some of the coaches.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the physiotherapist is there with his ultrasound head or whatever. You know, he's been like doing the same damn thing for like 45 minutes on the same guy, same me and everything. And
Yeah.
I've already seen half the team on my table, one after the other. So there was a lot of nonverbal friction.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And to the point where some guys, I don't know where it came from, but it came to my ears that some of the therapists were thinking I was cutting short, you know, cutting the corners in
Yeah.
terms of my treatments or anything.
Yeah.
Where I had this discussion with the head therapist and so on. So he said, we're concerned, you know. I said, did any of the players complain? He says, no, no, not at all. I said, okay, but then what's the problem? He says, well, you know, I mean, we would like, we just want to make sure that the players aren't injured before the game. I says, what the hell you're talking about? Did any of the players miss a game or a practice session following my intervention?
Yeah.
Again, he could not like claim that yes or no and so on. So at that point, that was my wake up call. You know what? Thank you, but I got to
I'm
move on.
out.
I'm
Yeah.
out. I'm out. So that was towards the end, and this is where I really focus on my own personal practice and develop from them, and so on.
Wow, that's funny. Hey, and I almost get jealous too. I think a bit because when, like, if someone doesn't understand, if they see someone just do a quick adjustment, and the benefit of a quick adjustment is massive. And
Well,
so,
for sure,
so a lot of
for sure.
people, again, especially in healing, like in the healing arts, like physio, massage, everything's based on time, not on delivering the goods, because you can
Absolutely,
deliver good goods in a short period of time,
absolutely,
not
exactly.
not just book time.
Exactly. And I'm of the philosophy, every person that lies on the table, I visualize myself on that table. How would I like to be adjusted and so on? And
Yeah,
even family members, like I won't spend 15 minutes adjusting a family member.
yeah,
Usually the adjustment will take less than a minute and so on.
yeah,
And I mean, my family members are like the most important within my life and so on. And I'm definitely not shortchanging them on the adjustment, but I
yeah,
believe in the power of the adjustment, and I just allow it to be, and that
yes,
goes with the whole premise of the chiropractic philosophy.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Gonstead was saying, find a subluxation, accept where you find it, adjust it, then leave it alone.
totally.
You let the body do its magic. You just like allow the body do its magic, and you'd be amazed. I mean, I'm amazed every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazed
It's
every
like,
day.
say, this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that brings me to the polyvagal theory and just some of the stuff that you've learned through the polyvagal theory. Like I've learned just taking that theory and blending in with my chiropractic philosophy has really helped to kind of make it a little bit richer in my practice. What are some of the things that you've kind of learned from the polyvagal theory that you've been able to apply for practice?
Well, it didn't change that much in terms of my approach or what I was doing in clinic. It just like I think brought more structure,
Yeah.
more a deeper understanding of what it is I was doing, plus easier to share, in a
Yeah.
more common language. It kind of dumbed down
Yeah.
the complexity of what I was trying to convey. So
Right.
it allowed me to get closer to some of the issues that were very complicated uh, to talk about. When you start talking about sympathetic, parasympathetic, autonomic nervous system, and so on.
Yeah.
Now I just resume it to, what? Let's calm down your system.
Yeah.
You're all over the place. Your system, your nervous system is all over the place. Let's declutter your spine, calm down the system. Okay. And just trust the process. So that's one of the main thing that it does, and also I'm much more aware, or I pay much more attention to the reaction, the body reaction, the physiognomy of the patient as
Yeah.
they're coming in the adjustment room, as they're lying down on the table, uh, their expression, and I want them to tell me what's going on inside, like,
Yeah.
do you feel safe in your body? First and foremost, do you feel safe in your body?
Right.
And what would it take for you to feel safe in that body? So I question more, I get them more engaged, and so on. So it's those things I think were brought upon with the polyvagal theory. And I just think it's a genius theory, by the way. I don't know how you guys came across of it, but it's amazing. It's amazing. It's chiropractic pure and simple. I
Yeah.
just posted something today, this morning on the Informed Chiropractor site about
Yes.
Sophie Gregoire, who's the prime minister's ex-wife, and she's not even realizing it, but she's describing polyvagal theory in a nutshell.
Maybe just describe to the listeners what she was talking about, just so that they can kind of hear what she was saying.
So it came on one of my feed and so on. This is a talk show. It's called Tout le monde en parle. Everybody talks about it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's basically a literal translation of the show. It's one of the most popular talk show in the province of Quebec. It's airing prime time Sunday night and so on. I'd say like over 3-4 million viewers are watching it every week
Wow.
religiously. Okay, and I missed like part of the first part of the story. I think she was like co-authoring a book and so on,
Mhm.
and talking about human behavior and so and so. And she was basically describing toddlers or children at school should be taught more than just the plain basics of mathematics and French lessons and so on. They should be taught to how to get in tune with their own body, how to
Wow.
get in tune with their nervous system, how they could regulate and so on. And then she went on a tangent, the experts are all agreeing when you're in a sympathetic, dominant sympathetic state, you cannot have any empathy nor compassion. And then she ends by saying, just look at the state of the world right now. And I said, man, this is brilliant. If you knew what you're talking about, it would be amazing, you know?
Yeah,
So
and
I, I
no, I was just going to say, and I think that's what I found so good about the polyvagal theory too, is that because in chiropractic we have our lingo, but sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to explain it to practice members in that short period of time when we see them. But the polyvagal theory has some, like you said, more simple language to be able to explain exactly what we're doing and what
yeah,
happens to the body when they get adjusted.
exactly. And I don't know, but we have this knack to make everything more complex than it should be.
Right.
No, when we're trying to explain chiropractic, when we're trying to explain an adjustment and so on, it's so simple, it's so easy. It's the same thing. You don't need to spend like a certain amount of time on the adjustment. You just do what it needs to be done, and then just allow it to happen.
Right. No, that's totally true. Um, People out there listening, what kind of things, if you were to fly back in time when you're 18, we all said we made some different decisions, growing up. If you could talk to your younger self when you're 18, what kind of advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, I mean, just follow your dreams. Don't be scared. Don't let the external influence, jeopardize your internal certainty and so on. Knowing what I know right now, of course, I would do things differently. But the main thing is, I am who I am today because of the decision and the experience that I lived.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, I cannot say I have regrets in terms of my life. That wouldn't be unfair to my current self and so
Right.
on. You know,
Yeah.
but at the same time, now I'm more vigilant about my whereabouts, my the choosing and so on, what I engage myself in, who I engage myself with,
Yeah.
my friendship. I'm someone very down to earth. I'm also extremely loyal. I have the same two best friends from high school. We still see each other on a weekly basis. We chit chat. We talk about everything. And I'm someone. Kind of repetitive within my routine. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so whatever sticks and makes me feel good and so on, I will repeat. I,
Mhm.
I will do. Uh, to a certain boring extent, but I mean, then it works for me.
Well, and sometimes I call it the boring success when
Yeah.
you know what works and you do it what needs to be working and you do it consistently, right?
Well,
That's
exactly, exactly. But it's also like a trial and error game. You'll never know if it's good or if it's not good or if it works or if it doesn't work if you don't try it.
right.
So I would basically go back and tell my younger self, no, don't be afraid to try. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to be laughed at.
Yeah.
Just get up, have fun, enjoy the ride. It's going to be a short one. And in the end, I mean, you're not going to look back at what you've accomplished and so on, but you're going to definitely regret what you didn't try and what you uh, missed
Yeah.
because of that fear or whatever it was.
Mhm.
So I try to like kind of move away from that.
Yes, yes. Now, we have a couple, people are listening in the car working out. Maybe they need a little inspiration. What kind of parting words of wisdom would you like to leave the listeners with today, or something that maybe you've used to help inspire you?
If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. You know, there's nothing easy. But I mean, usually the most difficult, the most challenging is the most rewarding thing to do.
Right.
Whether it's a workout, push yourself. Push yourself a little bit, even if it's 1%. Push yourself 1%. You'll see the next 1% will come easier. Push your limits. Don't be afraid to stretch the outer limits. Don't be afraid to push the envelopes, but keep moving forward, keep pushing. There's nothing to be shied or embarrassed by failing and so on. I mean, the most successful entrepreneurs, most successful athletes have failed so many times before achieving success. I mean, there's some folks that they stop counting. You
Yeah.
know, every story is like that. I mean, you can relate to the story of Michael Jordan. You can relate to the
Yeah.
story of like a Henry Ford. You know, there's so many stories where you have these folks failing miserably before finally getting the right thing. You know, and sometimes it comes by chance. Okay, and we say chance, but in a way, it's something that they've planted along the way that just built and built and built, and at some point it just like skyrocketed and propelled them to where they're at right now.
Hmm.
So hopefully, I mean, that this is what I'm doing. I hope I'm on the right track to do it. You know, I'm still like putting pieces and pieces and pieces, but eventually, I mean, I'm confident. You know, I'll trust the process. I'll
Yeah.
trust the process. This is something I keep reminding myself every morning. Trust the process.
Yeah.
Trust the process. I write it down, and sometimes it's tough. I
Yeah.
won't lie. It's tough. It gets frustrated. It's not the easiest of thing, but again, like I said earlier on, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Everyone will be doing it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join us on the podcast.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it and hope everybody got some good information out of that today. I always remember we both played sports. So, always in sports, they said it's easier to change the direction when you're in motion. And so, as long as you're moving somewhere, you can still change direction. But if you're flat footed or on your heels or you're not moving, it's really hard to change direction because you aren't in motion.
You're doomed. You're
You're
doomed.
doomed. So,
Your opponent will take over in no time.
exactly. So, everyone out there, keep in motion and we will talk to you in a couple weeks.